Welcome to another episode of 10xMarketer podcast. Today we have Yon Bane with us, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and expert at scaling e-commerce brand. He has already spent more than 30 million on scaling the e-commerce ads for different brands. Yon is also a host of Ecom Expector podcast. We have invited him to listen to his story and also learn from his experience of scaling the D2C brands. If you are new to this episode, I request you to follow us on different channels like Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever you are available at your favorite channels. We are available everywhere. Keep supporting us and keep listening to the new episodes as they come. Today, let's hear from Yuan and learn from his strategies of scaling the e commerce brand.
Hi, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. So, usually, when people ask me about my background, I like starting with the fact that I served in the special forces in the army. And then I realized that I don't want to have any commanders or executive above me, and I have to become my own boss. So, while I was working in an agency in Tel Aviv and I was spending approximately $1 million of media buying on Facebook ads, I luckily met a friend of mine and he showed me a Shopify dashboard and he told me that he started selling online. And until that moment in time, I thought that dropshipping or e-com is just bullshit that gurus are selling, but nobody's really making profits from it. But it was a childhood friend of mine, so I decided to give it a go. The morning after, I built a funnel, and the same evening, the first day I was running ads, I got my first sale, and then I realized, okay, I can make money online. This store scaled. We sold more than $4 million, mainly in UK market. I quit my job and I've been growing this e-com business. In 2022, we closed the store, and since then, I've been mainly focusing on providing media buying services and automations to teams that need marketing automations and scaling their businesses.
Awesome, Jan. So let me fire the first question that is related to your experience. If someone has to build and scale an e-com brand or a D2C brand as such, which includes the drop shipping businesses as well, what is your blueprint for them? What are the minimum tech stake or minimum things that they need in their bucket before they jump into D2C business?
So this is a very important question, and it's funny that many people overlook this, so they just jump in, and it really depends what part of the game are you in, and what is your current situation. Do you have cash? Can you acquire customers at loss, or do you need to be profitable on the front end? Do you have a user base? Do you have a unique product, or do you have a celebrity or some persona that can help you promote the product? So it really depends. So what I like telling people in any stage that they come to me, okay, you need to build a business plan and you need to have a strategy. After you have this business plan, you need to understand your unit economics. Once you understand your unit economics, meaning what is the cost of goods, how much you'll pay to the payment processing, how much is the shipping and handling, and what is your profit margin left, based on this, you can reverse engineer the CPAs that you can pay or CACs to pay in order to acquire a customer. And from there on, you start building the business or optimizing the business. So understanding the unit economics is very crucial. Obviously, you need to understand the lifetime value if you already have a business. But if you don't have a business, you don't know the lifetime value. So it's really about understanding the numbers. People think they have to come up with a good idea or good angles or great copy. No, no, no. It's more important to understand the numbers first.
True. And when it comes to number, what are the most important metrics when you're starting up? You talked about cost per acquisition and some other metrics already, but if you have to be specific and count the metrics on your fingers, what are the most important three or four metrics which every business should know?
Yeah. So I guess again, it really depends on the business and are you selling high ticket, low ticket? Are you selling a recurring product, subscription, not subscription? But in general, the most important aspects of the game are lifetime value and cost of acquisition. If you have a lifetime value, not revenue, like the profit margin in a lifetime of a customer is higher than the cost of acquisition, you can scale. If you don't have this, you don't have a business. So the most important metrics are lifetime value, cost of acquisition, second most important are AOV and conversion rates, but and retention rate. It depends, but in general, if you know your lifetime value and the cost of acquisition, you're in a good place.
Awesome. So let's say you're starting with a new D2C business, and specifically you're targeting customers who are purchasing a high ticket item versus a D2C business which has a low margin and selling to masses. Then what are the different metrics? How does it both businesses different from each other?
So this is a philosophical question. Essentially, businesses are not different because it's a numbers game, but you can approach them from a different perspective. I mean, if you're selling a very high margin, so you need to have operation not very high volumes, so you need to have operational efficiency, and you probably have smaller margins, so you need to be very tight on your tracking and really know the numbers, be in the weeds. While if you have higher margins, you can spend more and you have a bit more of a buffer to wiggle, and you don't have to be, you should be precise on numbers, but it's not as crucial. But in this case, I think it's more important to make sure that you have customer satisfaction, lower refund rate, because if you're selling high ticket and there's a big refund rate and people are changing back, it can cause many troubles. So essentially, there is no difference in businesses. You must have the numbers right, but obviously, any business is somewhat unique in the way you need to approach and how you need to optimize it.
Okay, so other part of the same question is when you are operating in a particular niche, and especially when this niche is dominated by bigger players, there are already industry sharks that are dominating that particular niche. You have done all the maths and calculation on paper and it looks fine, but when you enter in the market, there are so many hard realization that happens, and sometimes those realizations are not really nice. So how do you adjust and adapt in situation like this?
Also, this is a great question, and I think it's a matter of perspective, if these are realizations are nice or not. Because if you're able to take this realization and understand how you can tweak your unique selling proposition, or how you can figure out a way to find a smaller niche that isn't being served by the bigger sharks, so you're in a good place. So, for example, let's say you're selling skincare and you entered the US market, and then you saw, okay, the CPMs are very high, the cost of acquisition is very high, there is a lot of competition for who people are targeting broad skincare problems, but you can probably find a pocket, or maybe localize. Instead of going to the US, maybe start selling to a specific we used to sell, for example, shapewear in UK, so it was less saturated than the US. So every setback is also an opportunity. So you can tweak based on this realization, and just make your product more specific, and try to compete in places that the big brands are not competing, because the big brands are always looking at the broad picture. They're always targeting broad. They don't have time to target smaller audiences, because for them it's irrelevant, it doesn't move the needle. But for you, if you don't want to build an empire, but you just want to generate cash flow or live a good life, you can figure out these pockets in the market and serve them, and you will be just fine.
Awesome. So again, the question is about starting, and we are stuck at the starting of business. We'll go get more into the scaling another part. Now, most people don't understand the dominate marketplace, and they would simply say that I can spend on Meta, or maybe I can spend on Google, or maybe I can spend on both these marketplaces, and I should be fine. So when it comes to marketing plan for a D2C brand, almost 80-90% of the businesses would limit themselves to these two platforms, do some paid marketing, and they think that this is the way to go for them. Now I'm talking about the marketing plan. So if you have to advise a new entrepreneur who's just entering in the market, how should they really structure their marketing strategy or plan in a way that they are not overly dependent on just Google and Meta, and they can really survive in the market even if it becomes competitive in a longer space?
This is a great question, and it really depends on the resources available for the entrepreneur. Because if you have resources and you have capital, so going with paid marketing makes a lot of sense because the feedback loop is pretty short. You have a high degree of control, and you can get results pretty fast and iterate based on this. If you don't have a lot of capital, you should probably go a different route. So, or organic, which is very long, very tedious, or maybe recruiting affiliates and influencers, which you can, if you don't automate the reach out, you can also do this manually and just, knock on doors, not literally, but knock on doors, on virtual doors, and then you can also pull it off. But in general, I think the reason most people start with Facebook and Google is because they deliver. If you have the capital, it's still my go-to place. I still recommend people build a marketing plan based on paid media, assuming that they have the capital. If they don't have the capital, they should be creative.
Okay, and what is the role of your brand in the overall D2C business, and when you are really scaling it, how the brand plays the role, and how should one focus on building their brand from day one?
This is also a great question because I think back in the days, it wasn't as important as it is today. Because today, customers are more skeptic and they have been bombarded with scams and promises of products that solve solutions, and they know how to find reviews now. So I think brand is becoming more and more important. If you would have asked me 5 years ago regarding brand, I would have told you, don't waste even 10% of your budgets on brand. Just do direct response all the way and just convert like maniacs. But today I think it's becoming more important, especially creating good reputation in the marketplace, making sure that you have happy customers. And this serves two reasons. First of all, it's going to increase the conversion rates because when people see good reviews about your products, the likelihood of converting and buying from you is higher. And the second reason is because of the fact that customer acquisition is so expensive these days. You cannot rely on only one purchase. You need to rely on the lifetime value, on recurring and retention. So this is why it's so important to build a brand and to give a solution that really customers love. Otherwise, it will be very hard to build a healthy business without retention and without referrals and without good reputation.
Great. So now let's get into the specifics. You have a lot of experience of scaling Meta campaigns, and you have been spending a lot of money on Meta as such. So let's say a new brand is just starting the Meta campaigns. What should be the first step for them?
Setting aside the fact that you need to make sure that the pixel is implemented correctly and you need to create custom audiences based like remarketing audiences, collecting purchase audiences, etc. I think many people still until today they optimize for the wrong objectives. I know people sometimes say at the beginning you should optimize for add to cart or for traffic because it's cheaper or for engagement. I spent more than $30 million on Facebook ads, and this stuff never worked for me. The only thing that I advise is optimizing for objective that you really need, which is optimizing for purchase. So this is the first thing. The other thing is trying to test as many features as possible from the meta collection. So, for example, if you can test automated bids and manual bids and lookalikes audience and interest targeting, just test different stuff in meta until you see that something is producing better results. The caveat to this is if you don't have a big budget, you're kind of limited and you don't want to spread yourself too thin. So it really depends on the budget that you have. If you don't have more than $100 per day to spend like for 1 month consistently, I wouldn't even start the game because even $100 per day is very little. Um, so yeah, just testing a lot of features all the time. Obviously, being on the data and making sure that the tracking is correct and optimizing for purchase. I think these are like the fundamentals. And I can go on for hours and hours about this, but I want to keep it short and simple.
Okay, so what is your process for researching the audience, the target audience for your brand, if you're starting a new campaign?
So I really love looking at competitors, going to see their funnels, analyzing the funnels, analyzing their ads via the ad library, um, basically figuring out the whole funnel. This is the most important thing, in my opinion. Afterwards, when I build a funnel, I usually do some usability testing with people I hire via Upwork or customers or potential customers that could be like my avatars. So just making a usability test, making sure that everything makes sense, making sure that there is somewhat a level of trust in the funnel. So this is like also a fundamental step. And from there on, I don't like investing too much in researching. I prefer gathering data as much as possible and fixing based on the data because I don't like spending time on the sidelines. I prefer doing the research from my data than researching data that is out there in the air because every data is context dependent, and what you find that is not related to your account, to your pixel, to your offer is somewhat irrelevant. So this is why I urge people to start running traffic via their campaigns and gathering data on their own initiatives instead of just wasting time doing like too many researches outside, which are hypothetical and theoretical researches.
Awesome, that's bang on the point. Now, when you have done your research on the audience, and this should come from your personal experience, let's say you have been running a campaign for 2 months and you got some results, but it is not 100% the way you expected it to be. What are the corrective measures that one brand or one marketer should take at that stage so that you can still come back and survive in the competitive space?
Awesome. So first of all, I think there are many low hanging fruits that many people overlook. So for example, making sure that you set cart abandonment flows. So and a ton of emails. So sending 7 or 10 emails. Many people just use like the default 4 emails that Shopify is providing. This isn't good enough. So I suggest having like a ton of cart abandonment flows. Each email should contain should counter a different objective of the customer. These emails should be specific for the products, not generic emails. So cart abandonment flow is the first thing that I would optimize. The second thing is making sure that you have remarketing or retargeting campaigns in Facebook because this is a great way to collect more buyers that were on the fence. And also in these campaigns, you should counter the objectives, figure out what are the main objectives of the prospects and try to persuade them why you can really solve their problem. So if it's a price objective, give them a discount. If it's a disbelief in the product, so demonstrate the product in action, in the creative stuff like this. And after you've done this, like trying to capture the low hanging fruits, you need to start analyzing the funnel and see where exactly you think is you have the leakage in the funnel. So let's say if your conversion rate is very low, try to figure out if it's a problem between the add to cart and the actual payment, or is it a problem in the people that land on the landing page but don't go to add the cart. So basically trying to segment each step in the funnel and trying to improve each step of the funnel. So I don't know. It really depends, but the benchmarks, in my opinion, would be like CTR should be 2%, add to cart should be 10% of visitors, and conversion should be approximately 3%. But this is very broad. It really depends on the pricing point and offer and market. But you need to figure out the benchmarks and try to figure out a way to optimize each one of these steps in the funnel.
Awesome. So, from your own experience of scaling multiple brands, and you have spent a significant time at Fiverr marketplace because, and they were spending big when you were working there. Uh, how much time does it really take to be in a comfortable position and say that now is the time we can really scale a brand?
It really depends if you have more money so you can accelerate time because you just gather more data and get more buyers. At the end of the day, you want to be spending enough to see that you're not volatile, and starting to scale, it depends on the finances of the business and the goals of the business. But in general, I think that you should at least have like somewhat of consistency with regards to conversion rates, with regards to the cost of, or the CPAs, or cost of acquisition, some level of consistency. And also you want to make sure that customers are starting to return, and you don't have a very big influx of refund requests, because this is something that is very common in dropshipping. People start out, they see somewhat of success, they really hit the gas button on scaling, and then after 2 weeks or 3 weeks time, they start getting complaints from the customers, and then they realize, okay, this product is a piece of shit and customers are not happy. But then it's too late, the reputation is ruined, you're going to get a ton of refunds, refund requests, you're probably going to be blocked on PayPal or Stripe, and maybe even your Facebook page. So I would say make sure that you're in a good place to start scaling. It's better, in my opinion, it's better to be safe than sorry with regards to scaling and really hitting the gas. So seeing some consistency, making sure that you have retention and the product isn't broken, and only after you nailed it, then you can start scaling it.
Okay, so one part of the scaling and the entire game is customer acquisition cost, which is the CPA, and other important metrics is customer lifetime value. And
Mhm.
third one that you already talked about is what is your average order value. So let's start with the average order value. What strategies or inputs you use really in order to increase your average order value, and what optimization you can do on your store in order to achieve that.
This is also a great question. And basically, you must make sure that you have all the upsells that you want to add as many upsells as possible without adding too much friction. So you must find a sweet spot between trying to push the most stuff to, on the other hand, you want to avoid creating too much friction and scaring them away. So I like implementing, first of all, an order bump, which is a small upsell that just improves your AOV, slightly improves your AOV, but doesn't add much friction to the funnel. Afterwards, I like adding a one-click upsell, and the benefit of using a one-click upsell is it appears after the sale has been done. It's instead of the thank you page, so it doesn't add friction to the funnel. After you have these two, you can start considering doing cross sales in the cart, maybe a cross sell before the checkout page, or an upsell before the checkout page. So this stuff you should test around and see. And obviously, you also have the alternative of just adjusting the landing page. So for example, if you're selling supplements, you can make sure that the default alternative is 3 bottles instead of having 1 bottle. So let's say you have 1 bottle, 3 bottles, and 6 bottles, like offers in ClickBank. So you make sure that the default, the offers that they are landing on, has like 3 bottles. This can slightly improve your AOV. And so also maybe offering like a very expensive alternative and anchoring the price to be very high, and then when you offer something which is cheaper, you can improve your AOV. So there are many tweaks that can be done. This needs to be tested, and it's obviously context dependent. Who is the customer, what is the product, stuff like this. But in general, as I said, the main goal is to add as many upsells without adding too much friction.
Awesome. So now the another aspect of scaling is customer lifetime value.
Mhm.
So this is whatever stuff we talked about so far is part of one order. We are trying to get maximum out of that single order. Now the customer has made one purchase, and you want to bring them again so that you have a better lifetime value, and maybe make help them make multiple purchases from your store. So what are these strategies you use, you personally experience that yes, this definitely works and I've tried and tested it multiple times to increase the customer lifetime?
Awesome. So I think the most important thing to realize is that the first sale is very important. Like, they say you only have one chance to create the first impression. So if your product doesn't over deliver and the first interaction with your product and the unboxing experience isn't amazing and the product fails to over deliver, it's irrelevant. You won't have lifetime value and you won't have good retention. So before even thinking about the retention, you must make sure that you over deliver in the first delivery, and this is often overlooked. So making sure that your product actually is amazing, and the unboxing is very important. Many people overlook the unboxing, especially dropshippers. So making sure first of all that the product delivers, and after you realize the product delivers, from there on it's mostly communicating with your customers, sending a ton of emails and sending a lot of SMS. So I think the most significant thing that I've done in order to increase retention is just sending more emails, offering more products, offering more frequently. People are afraid that customers will unsubscribe, but I think more often than not, they are not sending enough emails. So at least one email daily to your list of buyers. I think this is like the minimum. And some people think that sending more than once per week is too much. So I think this is wrong based on my experience. So just selling more. Obviously, you need also to provide value, but this goes without saying. But I think making sure that you interact with your customers enough and offer them more stuff. And if they like your brand and if they enjoy your products, they will keep on buying.
All right, so you have a lot of experience in drop shipping as well, and these days there are a lot of ups and downs in the drop shipping market. Some people have experienced a great success, others had a drastic failure. uh, if someone is starting a drop shipping business right now, what is your advice for them, specifically to the drop shippers? What should be their research process? What should be their marketing and other areas? Maybe you can talk about that.
I think it's mostly what we covered already. So dropshipping isn't significantly different from e-commerce. It's like e-commerce, it's just a different form of fulfillment of inventory. Even if you're building a dropshipping business, you must make sure that you have a business plan, that you understand exactly what are your resources, what are your unit economics, how can you over deliver to the customers. Because back in the days, people started out dropshipping and they did stuff in a very scrappy way, just trying to make a quick buck. But this is very, very difficult today, and it also isn't sustainable. So I think all the advice that I gave here, like thinking long term, optimizing the lifetime value versus the CAC, making sure that you have retention, making sure that your customers feel that you've over delivered. This is also relevant for dropshippers. I think the biggest mistake that some dropshippers do is they think that this is easy, or that they don't need capital in order to enter the game. But this is incorrect. There are a lot of brands out there with a ton of capital who are competing with you. So unless you create a somewhat unique selling proposition, or you have a lot of capital, it will be very difficult to compete with these brands. So you must build stuff in a good way and over deliver. If you're just thinking that you will enter the dropshipping game based on a course that you saw on YouTube and the methods that were shared by a guru, you're going to burn away money. You probably will gain some wisdom, but you probably will fail.
But that wisdom comes with a lot of cost, and it's
Exactly.
not affordable for everyone to have that kind of wisdom.
Exactly.
And specifically, if you don't have capital, then my suggestion would not be to get into such a risky adventure.
Exactly.
All right. So I think we had a great discussion about scaling on Meta. We also talked about customer lifetime value, customer acquisition cost. You talked about the marketing plan and other aspects of audience research. Now, is there any specific input you want to share with people who want to start in their D2C journey?
I think again, it's mostly about figuring out what is the long-term vision. Although some people want to just get started, and it makes a lot of sense because you want to start getting signals, but still you want to have a long-term plan and you want to build this business with strong fundamentals. So don't enter without enough skills or enough capital or a unique selling proposition, because as you said, it's going to be pretty painful.
Awesome, Jan. So I think we had a good chat about scaling the e-commerce brand, and thank you so much for being on my show. Uh, I would look forward to have you again in the future if possible, and we would discuss maybe some other topic or get into more details about scaling the
Awesome.
D2C brand. So thank you so much, and it was really nice having a chat with you.